Welcome back. The concept of the web of prevention. And this, as an umbrella term, locates these concepts of biosafety, biosecurity, and biorisk management in the context of this much wider concept, which relates really to what goes on beyond the laboratory door. So we're not talking about what goes on in labs, we're talking about beyond the laboratory door. So this wider concept involves biosafety, biosecurity, and biorisk management, but it also involves international and national prohibitions. For example, the UK, when it signed the Biological Weapons Convention, at the same time was under an obligation to enact national legislation. So we in the UK, we've got a Biological Weapons Act, which mirrors the Biological Weapons Convention. And the same with the Chemical Weapons Convention as well. We've got a Chemical Weapons Act. So this is a national domestic prohibition that reflects the international prohibition that we've signed up to in terms of our obligations under the CWC and in terms of our obligations under the BWC. So the international prohibition regime for the bioweapons is the Bioweapons Convention, and for the chemical weapons is the Chemical Weapons Convention, and the national prohibitions in the case of the UK are the national domestic legislation in the form of the Bioweapons Act, Biological Weapons Act, and the Chemical Weapons Act. So that's the first thing, prohibition regimes. The second thing is that biological security, according to Pearson, involves disease detection and prevention. This is not a comprehensive list, by the way. These are sort of highlights, if you like. The third thing is effective threat preparedness. The fourth thing, export controls. The fifth thing, oversight of life science activities. And then the sixth thing, we would argue, is an important part of that web of prevention. So today's exercise relates to those three areas, humans and animals, in the first instance, and then finally we'll get to this part of the scenario that relates specifically to plants in agriculture. So the first thing to say then is that we've got this exercise on CRISPR-Cas9. This is a TBL exercise. Some of you, I think, have done TBL already. I've talked to a couple of people who've had the experience. Maybe many of you haven't. There are various stages to this process, and we've set them out, broadly speaking, on the chart over there. Individual tests that you'll be asked to do, and we call these IRATs, Individual Readiness Assurance Tests, and we're going to give you about 15 minutes to do this. There are two things that you need to be a little bit careful about. One is that we'd like to ask you first, in the first instance, to select the answer from this list of multiple choice questions. So there's a question and there's 4 possible answers, and the answers are A, B, C, and D for each question. Okay. So what we'd ask you to do is indicate by underlining or circling the answer that you think is the correct answer. Okay. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that you need to be careful when you read the question, because some of the questions say, according to the PowerPoint presentation provided, which of the following is false? But some of them say, according to the PowerPoint presentation, which of the following is true? So you just need to be a little bit careful about paying attention to whether it's asking you for true or false. But let me just start by saying that first of all, we'll do an individual test, and then you'll hand the papers in and we'll take those off you, and then we'll give you some more bits of paper, and then the idea is that you do the same test again, but instead of doing that on an individual basis, you'll do that as a team. Okay? Exactly the same questions. First one is an individual test. Second one is that you do the same quiz, as it were, as a team. Okay? So we would ask now then that you begin to do your individual readiness assurance test. You've all got a piece of paper. Please select the answer that you think is the correct one. After about 15 minutes, we'll close this exercise and we'll take the papers back off you. So over to you guys. The individual readiness assurance test. Thank you. the next part of this involves